Good morning, everyone. Glad you guys could join us today, and I'm glad I'm actually here on time for a Sunday morning. We actually made it. We had a little bit of an issue last week where I was having some problems with the computer. For some reason, it would not talk to my camera, but I got that straightened out. Turns out it was just one of the cables was bad, I guess. So we swapped that out, got the cameras working good, and we're able to go live. Last week we had to do it on my cell phone, and boy, that was terrible. That was the first time I've ever gone live from a cell phone, and I don't ever want to have to do that again. So we're coming up on Thanksgiving week, and I hope you guys are all getting ready for Thanksgiving, got plans set up and whatnot. We're going to have a quiet Thanksgiving here at home, me and the wife. I think that's going to be excellent because years and years of the noisy Thanksgiving with the kids and the rest of the family and whatnot. So looking forward to this one. As far as what I've been doing, and by the way, I finally got my notification on time on the phone. It just came in. I normally don't get them. Hold on a second, guys. Okay, that is good. Yeah, right when I went live, I got the notification on the phone. So maybe YouTube's finally starting to, pick things up and get them out on time. I know on some of the other live streams, I'd go live, and then halfway through the live stream, I get the notification. I'm like, what's this for? So anyhow, been really busy out in the shop, getting all the equipment and gear set up, been filling some orders for signs that have been coming in, so that's kind of nice. I know some of you guys have reached out to me about some signs. The website is up. It's gulfcoastquail.com. I decided to just use my regular website for now to offer the signs for sale, but there are some signs posted on the website. You guys can check them out over there. We're actually taking orders now. We do some custom stuff too. So if there's something on there or if there's something you're looking for but you're not seeing it on the website, let me know, because we can pretty much do whatever you guys want. So yeah, let's see what else is new. Double R Farms, I see that you are in the house. I have gone ahead and made you a moderator, so you're good to go for that. The Rhode Island Red Chicks are doing really well. It's so neat to have chickens again. I haven't had chickens in probably, 5, 6, 7 years now. So it's really nice to have a few chickens. What we're going to do, Double R Farm sent me out half a dozen Rhode Island Reds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set them up out back. They're going to have their own little coop. They're going to be able to free range during the day and hopefully help clean up underneath the quail pens and whatnot. So curious to see how they're going to act around the bees, though. From what I've been reading, and the people that I've talked to said that chickens and bees are no problem. They're not going to mess with the bees, and the bees aren't going to mess with the chickens. So looking forward to that. But I have been working on the aviary out back. I've also been working on some new cages, design work. I haven't actually started construction yet, but I have been working on some new cages, the designs for what I am setting up out back. And the thing that I'm finding for the way I want to set it up, for those of you who are familiar with Chris Carnes over at Slightly Redneck, I'm thinking seriously about building something similar to what he's got. I like the enclosed end for the birds to get out of the weather, but then they've got the open side, for whatever, getting out in the fresh air and whatnot. So, Andy, I love it too. Oh, Willie, he's my buddy. So yeah, we're going to start construction on the cages pretty soon, and hopefully get some hatching eggs in here. I don't think I'm going to actually start hatching until after the first of the year. Just because if I start in January, then, by end of March, the birds should start laying, and we can, ramp up for spring. So, another announcement I want to make, guys, is the upcoming live for the regular Coturnix Corner Live is going to be on Monday, tomorrow, at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're not doing it Tuesday because it's getting closer to Thanksgiving, and because I've got a couple guests that are coming on that have some really important announcements to make. As a matter of fact, when they reached out to me and talked to me about it, it kind of blew my mind. It's just going to be some surprising announcements. I can guarantee you that. But it's also going to be, it's going to reflect some changes that are coming up on Coturnix Corner for the new year, especially as far as sponsors are concerned. So, and for stuff for giveaways, there's going to be a little bit of a change there. But anyhow, Rebecca Lynch from Thieving Otter Farms and Michael Rose from Southwest Game Birds will be joining me tomorrow night. They both have some really big announcements that they are going to be making. So if you guys can make it, check in tomorrow night. Like I say, it's going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it ought to be a really good live stream. So, all right. Let's see. I think that's about it for me. Let me get a sip of my coffee. I do have coffee this morning. Actually, I have coffee and water. I don't know if you guys can see my cup. It says mine, mine, mine. I don't know if you guys have ever watched the Disney World. It's got these seagulls on it that they're always yelling mine. I love that cup. Also got a bottle of water because my coffee right now is really, really hot. All right. Let me get over to the chat room and see who is here with us today. I hope you guys all have your coffee. Anything that you guys want to talk about. Doesn't have to be strictly quail related. Whatever you want to bring up and talk about is fine with me. So let's go ahead and jump in the chat room and see who's with us. Mark Garrett's in the house, says good morning. Double R Farms in the house this morning, everyone. Why on earth am I missing some... Oh, okay. It looks like Andy Rabbit was the only one for some reason that didn't show up over here. But Andy Rabbit's also in the house, says good morning. Child of God says good morning. Getting coffee. We'll be right back. We'll be back. Antonietta and Antoinette. And I'm going to blow that one off. Tucker Mountain Quail's with us. I'm early for a change. Woohoo. I'm glad you could join us. There's Andy Rabbit there. And, okay, it's weird. I see some of them over here on my main computer in order, the order that they're posted. But then when I come over here on the streaming computer, they're not necessarily in the same order I'm seeing over there. So, anyhow, welcome to the live stream, Andy. Mary Howard's in the house, says good morning from the Olympic Peninsula of Washington State. I have my coffee. We'll brew a fresh pot in a minute. I will share if anyone wants to come get a cup. Okay, I'd join you, but it's kind of a hike to get there. Andy Rabbit says it's nice waking up and sharing a cup with everyone. Absolutely, I agree. Mary's talking to Andy, says love your granddaughter's photos. Miranda Barnes is in the house, is making coffee now. Just talk about coffee makes me want some of my coffee. Bob Cole's joining us, says howdy folks. Glad you could join us, Bob. Vaughn Taylor's in the house, says good morning. Mary's talking to Child of God, says hurry, we don't want you to miss anything. Absolutely. Tucker Mountain Quail says hi y'all. Mary says hi Terry, glad you made it. Yeah, I have a habit sometimes of forgetting these Sunday morning lives. I really don't forget about it. It's just, I think about it the night before. Okay, I got to go live in the morning. And then I get up in the morning and first thing on my mind is, go out in the shop, take care of the chickens and see what's going on, order-wise, with signs and whatnot. And I get busy and it just slips my mind. And so anyhow. Andy Rabbit says, thank you, Mary. I'm glad you do. I love sharing them with y'all. Cool. Don says, good morning from South Mississippi. Glad you could join us, Don. There we go. Child of God says back with coffee and banana in hand. Cool. Andrew Abbott says my notification is up too. It was surprising because it seems like for the longest time I was not getting. I've actually got notifications of the live stream after the live stream was over with. I'm like, come on, what's going on there? Double R Farm says my family Thanksgiving dinner is today. We are expecting 26 plus. Wow. At 2, I got mine on time too. Oh, 26 plus at 2. I got mine on time too. Cool. Speaking of the notification. I'm glad you liked the sign, by the way. Yours was actually the first of those round 3D signs that I actually sent out. So I'm glad you liked it. Miranda Barnes says my notification popped up just before 2. Okay. Backcountry's in the house says good morning from Tampa, Florida. Let's see here. Mary says, quiet Thanksgiving here. Even going out, I will be making a turkey breast so we can have sandwiches. Yeah, we actually got a pretty big turkey just for me and my wife. I think it's either 14 or 17 pounder. And I'm like, this ought to make quite a few meals. I love turkey. I mean, I'll make sandwiches all week long. So, and whatever's left over, the dogs, I'm sure will eat. Vaughn Taylor says, yeah, I got it up. Cool. Dane Paget's in the house says good morning from Georgia. Anita Garris joining us says good morning. Anita, I want to thank you again for that wonderful shout out that you and Kaylee did. That it was so cool to get that. I mean, that really made my day, and I almost feel like I know Kaylee now. So, and for those of you who don't know, Kaylee is the owner of the channel, the Honeystead. I kept wanting to say homestead. The Honeystead. She does a lot of homesteading stuff and bee stuff. That's why I watch it, because she's into bees and whatnot. So, yeah, that was really cool, though. I appreciate that, Anita. Maury Straubel's in the house says, good morning. Glad you could join us, Maury. I heard you got a deer. Congratulations. Andy says, I think I'll be cooking a turkey breast, too. Okay, talking to Mary. Mary says, my notification is up now. That's so strange. Yeah, I don't know what YouTube's deal is when it comes to the notifications. You think that they would, send them out either before the live or the second the live goes live. But who knows? And it may not be, it may be that it's not a YouTube issue. It may be your, not your web host, but your ISP, your internet service provider, isn't sending your emails right to you, immediately. And he says, love your shirt. Yep. Good old Willie. For those of you who can't see, Willie's flipping us all off. Bob Cole says, got an upcoming notification 30 minutes ago and again right before the start of the live. Now, that's the way it should be. Julio's in the house. Just hope everybody's having a great morning. Hello there. Glad you could join us. Backcountry says, that's how I do it, my cleanup crew. Talking about the chickens in the yard. Yeah, I thought that would be... I was a little worried about, the chickens scratching around in the manure from the quail. But I don't think the quail are going to, present any problem because they've never been on the ground. So, hopefully they don't have coccidia or carry a coccidia, and pass it on to the chickens. But I've never had, and I've had chickens out back free ranging for a while before. And I've never had an issue with, coccidia or actually anything. I don't think my chickens have ever been sick. They've always done really well out there. So, yeah, it's going to be kind of neat to see how they go. Emma Bell's in the house. Says, hey, everybody. Glad you could join us, Emma. Glenn says, good morning. Good morning. Linda Easton's in the house, says hello from Tampa. It's nice to be in the same time zone for your live. Good to see everyone here. Glad you could join us, Linda. And yeah, at least out on the West Coast, you don't have to get up at 6 o'clock to watch it. So cool. Andy Rabbit says, "What's your advice? The person a few doors down has bees. We are sitting outside and they come and swarm us. We can't sit with a soda or drink comfortably because of them. What can I do to keep them away?" The main thing they're coming, they're smelling the sugar from the soda. So the only thing I could say would be to not have your sodas out there. But the thing is, the bees aren't not going to bother you. I mean, me and my wife sit out in the backyard, and that was my sister. Me and my wife sit out in the backyard all the time, and I mean, we've got 3 hives within 30, 40 feet of us. And yeah, they'll buzz around once in a while, but they're not interested in us. They're out working. You know, the forager bees, when they leave the hive, they've got one thing on their mind, and that is to go out and collect, pollen, nectar, sometimes water, so they want to go out and get water. And if you've got a pool or anything out there too, or any type of standing water, that could be, what they're going towards. But, I've done the same thing. I've had, a bottle of soda or something, and it'll be sitting on the table, and every once in a while I'll notice a bee buzzing around the top of it. It's just that they smell that sugar, and they want to get some to take back to the hive. So as far as what you can do to keep them out of there, you can take some peppermint essential oils, and what I do is I put it in a spray bottle. And this is how I keep them out of my shop when I've got the back door, because they come in my shop all the time because they smell the frames from that I pull out of the hives, to extract honey. They smell that, so they try to come into the shop. But what I do is I'll spray, if I'm going to keep the door open, I'll spray some peppermint essential oils. And I don't know if they don't like it or it's covering up the smell of the frames that are in the house. But it does a really good job. It keeps them out of the shop. So you might be able to try that. I mean, if they're bothering you that bad, keep a little spray bottle of that around and, maybe spray them. But I can tell you they're not going to sting you. Bees don't want to sting because they die. So the only way they will sting is if, they feel that their life is threatened. And that's the only other choice that they've got. Andrew Rabbit says, "Hello, Linda." Okay. Bob's in house is Finding Nemo. Seagulls on the dock talking about who gets the fish. Exactly. And with all my kids, I've seen pretty much every Disney World out there. I mean, my kids were big into all them Disney videos. Vaughn says, "But I've had my Pepsi already." Well, it's coffee time. Samantha's in where? Antonietta. Tucker Mountain Quails. Looking forward to it. Samantha Stratton says, "Coffee, crochet, and morning musings." Oh, okay. Looking forward to the live. Yeah, that is going to be a really good live. Like I say, Michael and Rebecca both have some really important announcements that they want to make. And I can guarantee that some of you may be pretty surprised at some of these announcements. I mean, like I say, it got me by surprise, when Michael told me what was going on. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But like I say, it's going to bring some good changes for the upcoming year as far as Coturnix Corner is concerned. So Bill Thompson's in the house, says, "I have some 9-week-old roos that are really nice size. Can I replace my 4-month-old roos in my coveys, or will it bring chaos?" You can. What I normally do if I'm replacing roos, now 4-month-old roos aren't there. I mean, they're still in their prime as far as breeding goes. So, if you want to, if you're replacing them because, they're falling off on their breeding, or, they're not as productive as they were, I would let them go to like 8 months. But if you're replacing them because they're, better stock, better coloration, bigger in size, whatever you're looking for, then yeah, what I would do when I'm replacing mine, I do it right in the evening. I wait till it's just about lights out time. I'll pull out the old roosters, and then I'll introduce the new. And usually by the time they wake up in the morning, there's no issues. I know I've heard people say that you can spray them down with vinegar and water, and that helps. I tried it a few years back, and it didn't seem to make a difference. But I can tell you, a few years back when I tried that technique, I also had a line of quail that was a lot more aggressive than the lines that I'm currently keeping. The stuff that I'm keeping now, and if your quail are non-aggressive, go ahead and swap them all. You won't have no problems. So, okay, Don says, question. Hey, Terry, we would like to replace our non-productive hens. How do we know which ones are not laying? Short of putting them in individual cages and monitoring them for a couple of days, there's no way of really knowing. That was the nice thing about the hatching time cages. You could put the dividers back in, split up a few of your birds, and figure out, who's the aggressor or who's the non-productive bird. A lot of people don't have the ability to split their birds up, especially if it's a big covey. So, let's see. Double R Farm says, make sure you have live chat selected and not top chat on the other computer. You know what? It's on top chat. So we're going to go to live chat. Appreciate that one. See, you learn something new every day. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing this stuff. You learn something new every day. Julio says, got some Celadon eggs from Kansas City Quail. Naomi, due Thanksgiving Day. Excited. Cool. Congratulations. Yeah, I believe you asked about that a few weeks back on the live. Naomi's got some really good birds, too, so you'll like those. Tucker Mountain Quail says, question for you. Not sure if you're selling cage setups. Think I remember you mentioning that. We are not yet. It is all in the plans. As a matter of fact, it's in the software program that I'm working on for my CNC machine. We are going to be cutting out the cages. We're going to be cutting out the lumber for the cages on the table saw, but we will be running them through the CNC machine, which will do all the pre-drilling for you guys, all the dado cuts. So that way, when you go to assemble this cage, you can't mess it up. It's going to be dado cut, slide this in there, put a couple screws in it, a little bit of glue, and you're good to go. I think the only thing you're going to need to put these things together will be a screw gun, a staple gun or a stapler. And I think that's about it. And same with the incubator, the DIY incubator. I've got that in the plans. I actually had to do some modifications to it to make it fit the box that we're going to be shipping in. Originally, the box is 26 inches tall, the incubator, or the cabinet's 26 inches tall. We're going to change it to 24 inches tall, maybe 22. It all depends on how well it'll fit in the box. I just want to make sure that, being shipped, there's nothing going to be damaged. I can pack it decent enough to where it won't get damaged en route to you guys. So that's the game plan. Andy Rabbit says, I've decided I'm going to make a mini, slightly redneck looking cage for my granddaughter. Yeah, Chris has some nice looking cages. The only thing that I'm going to change on my slightly redneck cage, it's not going to have as big of an area because he uses it for a sandbox. I'm just going to have it for an area to get out of the weather. I am also not going to have the roof like he has it. He's got the roof way above the cage. And I'm just afraid that down here with, some of the wind we get, that's going to make it act like a parachute and want to lift the thing right off the ground. And so, yeah. Mark says, been at it since 4 a.m. Never enough time for everything. I hear you. Linda says, good morning, Anita. Child of God, talk to Mary, says, quiet here as well, just staying home. May roast a quail, don't care for turkey. I was planning on having quail for Thanksgiving. But guess what? I don't have any quail. We've already eaten. I think I might have a couple bags of legs up in the freezer, but as far as whole birds or breast, we do not have any. Mary says, I'll be doing turkey breast in broth to keep it moist. Just love turkey sandwiches. Yep, me too. Raised in the house says, this is Bernadine. Good morning, all from McMinnville, Oregon. So glad I could finally make it this Sunday morning. And Bernadine, I did get your email, and I did fix up the barn a little bit. I didn't make any changes to it, but I added some lines in it so you could tell the roof, because it was kind of blowing out the roof. You couldn't really see it in the engrave. So I am going to go ahead. I'll do another engrave on a sample cup. I'll send you a picture of it, and if you like it, you can go ahead and order it. So, and thanks for joining us today. Good to see you here. Luis says, I'll be picking up 2 males, 6 hens this Wednesday. First time raising quail. I've been learning a lot from you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Not a problem. I'm glad you're enjoying the channel, and it's been helpful to you. That's what it's here for. So. And thanks for joining us today. Child of God's had both the pre-notification and the actual notification. Maybe YouTube is starting to... Dog, you're killing my back. Come on. All right, I'll just lean on you then. Joe's in the house. Is good morning from Inglewood, Florida. Glad you could join us, Joe. Mary says, wow, Bob, why are you so special? Sometimes I don't even get notifications. Double R Farm says, if you feed them quality feed and nutrition and keep them clean, you will not have issues with sickness. Yeah, I look at, I've done chickens a lot longer than I've done quail, but back, before I got quail, I was going to Tractor Supply and local feed store and just buying, whatever the cheap layer feed was they had and giving them that. Never had any problems with it, but I always figured that was because I was letting them free range and, they were able to get, the nutrition that they needed. But ever since I got into quail, I, finally started realizing how important nutrition really is, especially when it comes to, keeping the birds healthy, egg laying, breeding, and whatnot. So, yeah, agree 100% with you. Red B says, chickens might want to roost on the quail cages. The chickens are actually going to be locked up at night. I'm going to... haven't figured out exactly if I'm going to use my aviary yet to put the chickens in or just build them a separate coop. But they're going to be raised up once they're old enough to go outside. They'll be raised up in that coop where they'll, have nest boxes and brooding area, or not brooding, but roosting area. And then when they get a little bit older, I'll be able to open the door and let them out during the day. And, hopefully at night they'll go back in and roost. So, yeah, I look forward to it. I mean, I got a lot of neighbors that have chickens. My nephew right across the street, his neighbor's got a whole bunch of them. And it's pretty neat to see them running around. Because a lot of people down here or around here just let their chickens roam. They'll go out in the street and be roaming around the front yards and go into the neighbor's yards. My entire backyard's fenced, and it's a 6-foot high fence, so I don't think they can get out of it. So, and I don't want them roaming all around because we do have a lot of cats in the neighborhood. Andy says, Julio, I have some celadon eggs in the incubator now from Kansas City Quail. They're due to hatch Thanksgiving. I candled last night, and they're all looking good. Cool. Good luck on the hatch. Andy Rabbit says, I drank a bee. My granddaughter got stung on the leg. Yeah, that kind of stinks. I've almost drank a bee. I've reached down and grabbed my soda, and there was a bee on the top of the bottle. So, yeah, I almost drank it. I've never been stung. It's kind of weird. My wife got stung, when was it? Probably a month or so ago. We were out putting tarps over the beehives because mosquito control contacted me and said that they would be spraying that night. So we were tarping it, and she didn't put on gloves. She put on her suit, but she didn't put on gloves. And as we were dragging the tarps up over the beehives, I guess it, made a few of them mad. and they went right to her hands and stung her. So, and it was funny. She showed me it. She says, "Look, there's a bee stinging me," and I'm like, "Brush it off." And she didn't brush it off because she thought I was going to get mad, if it killed the bee. And I'm like, the bee's dead anyhow. Once they sting you, they die. So, no. Bees are cool. I mean, I used to be afraid of them as a kid. I was not scared to death of them, but I was leery of them. And now that I've got them and I'm learning, to work with them and whatnot, I really like them. I basically have no fear when I go out there anymore. I remember the first day when I brought the nuke boxes home. I got 2 of them, and I was really hesitant about opening them up and moving the nuke boxes from a 5 frame into a 10 frame. And I said, well, I got to do it. So, no, they're pretty cool. Oh, this says 2 videos today. Cool. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no live stream today. I mean, 1 live stream today. Carrie's in the house is good morning. Double R Farm said, talking to Red Bee, I've had quail get out of their cages and find them outside in the chicken coops on a roost. Kind of funny. That is weird. I have also had baby chicks in the floor of the quail room eating the quail feed. Cool. Anita says, I'll have to leave here in a few minutes. We processed out turkeys yesterday for fresh sales. Nice. I hope they fit in the shrink bags. Guesstimate is they ate 25 pounds on average. Wow, they are 25 pounds on average. Them are some good-sized birds. Andy Rabbit said, I'm also afraid I'll put my arm down or sit back on one and get stung. Try that peppermint spray essential oil. 1, it smells good, and 2, it seems to keep the bees away. I mean, when I spray it, and I don't know if it's masking the odor of what they're looking for, or if because I mean, if you don't have bees, I mean, if you don't physically have the hives there on your property, and they're coming from down the road or a wild hive or something, there's got to be something attractive for them to come over there. And like I say, it's usually they love chlorine water. So if you've got like a pool, they smell that chlorine. They love to go there and drink out of the pool. But usually I find it's like a sweet drink of some type that they're trying to get to. Mary says, hey, folks, push the like button. It really does help Terry. Yeah, I hit the like button. So, yeah, if you guys want to hit the like button, it does help us with the YouTube algorithms. I really don't worry a whole lot about it on the morning musings because, one, the morning musings don't get near the views that we get on the Coturnix Corner live streams. But, everything helps the channel. So, yeah, go ahead and hit the like button. Carrie says, I can't wait till Monday. I'm looking forward to it myself. Child of God says, I wish we had a bee problem. Did have some nice bumblebees, but not a lot of honeybees. Lots of flowers, though. Yeah, I think I mentioned that before. And this was the main reason I got the bees, is I was having issues in my vegetable garden. A lot of stuff wasn't getting pollinated, and therefore not producing any, either vegetables or fruit. One of them was tomatoes. I had 13 tomato plants. Nice, big, gorgeous tomato plants. Lots of flowers on them. And I got 3 tomatoes that entire season off those plants. And I wasn't spraying, so I knew it wasn't anything I was putting on the plants. So I contributed it to be a lack of pollinators. And so that's one of the reasons I got into honeybees, was not just for myself, but to pollinate, everything around here. And it's neat because my neighbors now say it's nice to see honeybees out there again. We used to see them on our lawns. We got these little pink flowers, they call them snowflowers, that grow in our grass. And it's neat to see the bees buzzing around in there, and doing their thing. So, yeah, it's nice to have them. And also, one thing that I noticed since I got honeybees is I've never seen one before, but now that I've got honeybees, I'm seeing them all the time. These little green, metallic colored bees. And I guess they're after the the glue. What do they call the glue? Oh Lord, another one of them mornings. Um, the bees make this glue that they seal up. Propolis. Thank you. They're after the propolis, and so it's really neat to see them around. Fawn says, "Okay, everyone need to go take care of my grandkids. Have a great day. Glad you could join us, and have a good day." Bill says, "Oops, typo. These are 7th-month-old roosts. Some small." Yeah. Go ahead and do what I say. Yeah, 7 months. They can be replaced. Then. Bob says, "I'm still hoping to find anyone else raising quail at a high elevation." Yeah, Bob. I don't know of anybody that's up as high as you are that's doing quail. There was one guy, and I don't believe he's at your elevation. I'm trying to think of his name. Very unique name. And I want to say he was in Washington State. What was it? I haven't even seen him on the channel in a while either. But if I think of it, I'll reach out to him and see, exactly what elevation he's at and if he can give you any tips. Mary says, "Terry, I want to have you make a sign for me. How do I get you a copy of my logo?" Mary, you can email it to me at terry@coturnixcorner.com or message it to me over in the Coturnix Corner community. Just, send me a message and send it as an attachment. Highest quality you can send to. Child of God says, "My 7-week-old hatch group of 35 so far is 25 males. No eggs laid yet, but waiting to vent sex. The rest still 8 weeks old, praying for hens." Everybody's always praying for hens. Yeah, good luck. It sounds like you got a pretty decent hatch. Oh, 25 males out of 35. Sorry about that. That's not good. Andy Rabbit says, "The last set of baby celadons I hatched from Kansas City Quail Farm are nice and hardy. Look a little bigger than the other 2 batches I hatched out the same day." Yeah, Naomi's got some good lines. She, just like Michael and Rebecca, she selectively breeds. So, as a matter of fact, I've had Kansas City Quail lines here before, and they always did really well. RNJ Enterprise says, "Having coffee and watching you this morning from Lubbock, Texas. Glad you could join us." Ray says, Marietta says, "Okay, cool. Thank you. I'm excited to see it." Yeah, like I say, I'm going to have to dig up what I use is these old cups. I sit and do all kinds of tests on them just to see, what my laser is doing. I want to make sure that, because when you do logo, or when you engrave on a cup, especially if you've got a logo that's perfectly round, if I engrave it round, it's going to be oval on the cup. It's lasering round, but because of the curvature of the cup, your eye looks at it and you're saying, that's a definite oval. Or the other way around. If it's an oval, it stretches it way out. It looks funny. So I've got to do tests just to make sure that, it's going to look correctly on the cups. Let's see. Andy says, "I'm not going to do the roof as high on her cage as Chris's either. I don't want anything jumping in between the roof and wire. Had not thought about the wind. That's a good thought." Yeah, I think the wind to me was the biggest issue, but I think Chris said the reason he made it so high was so he would have a place above the cage where he could, put stuff. And yeah, I can see that point, but I always like the roof to be part of the cage itself. I don't think it needs to be extended up over it. Julio says, "Watch your JMF video with Michael probably 15 times. Excited for tomorrow's video. Hope it's good news." Yeah, it is. It's news. I tell you that. And it's good. Some of it's good. Some of it's a little disappointing. Well, to me, to hear this news was a little disappointing. But, things have a way of working out, and you know, people make choices for a reason. So, um, yeah, like I say, be there at tomorrow's live, guys. It's going to be a good one. And we are also going to be doing some giveaways tomorrow. So if you guys want, hatching eggs, $50 hatching time gift certificate, whatever, join us and get a shot at one of those. GIS Herps in the house this morning. Oh, coffee just done. Having quail for Thanksgiving. What's your favorite recipe? As far as quail goes, my favorite is barbecued on the grill. Unless it's legs, then I love the legs fried. My wife, they're so tender and it's just amazing. But we're doing turkey, so. And he said, Child of God, I don't mind the bees. I just want to be able to keep them away from our drinks and faces. Love watching them on flowers. A bee on a flower makes a perfect picture. Yeah, it does. And I can totally understand, back before I started doing bees, if I had them buzzing around me, especially flying around my face, I would be swatting them. And that's the worst thing you can do, believe it or not, is to swat at a bee. All you're going to do is make them mad, and they're going to want to sting you because your swatting is a threat to their. I guess they feel like they're threatened. So, good way to get stung. Emma says, I have a bee-themed mug that has a little bee painted on the inside of the mug near the top. Gets me every time. That's cool. Mary says, our neighbor has chickens they used to let run. They scratched a lot of our ground cover out of the bed and the sidewalks. It was a mess. I had to ask him to keep him on his own place. Yeah, my wife was kind of saying that too, that because she doesn't like the chickens free ranging because she thinks they're pooping everywhere. That's making a mess. But and also they're scratching through the flower beds and garden beds. But that's what they do. So. And he says, although it's fixing to be winter, we won't have to worry much anymore. Yeah, that's true. You're not going to see them out near as much, except maybe on the warmest of days. But, yeah. Miranda says, we collect swarms without gear, which was great until my smartwatch buzzed and their... Oh, wow, your smartwatch buzzed and their swarm exploded. I was picking stingers out of my hair the whole drive home. Guess what stays in the truck now? Yep. I haven't. I built a swarm trap that I was going to hang up. I actually just gave it away. I was going to hang it up because when I first got into bees, that's what I thought. My bees are going to swarm. Maybe if I set out a trap, I'll catch my own swarm. But after talking with a lot of people and watching videos and stuff, take care of the bees and you can keep the swarming down. But I'm really getting into keeping my bees naturally. Like I got rid of all my plastic frames. Everything is, just a regular frame with a starter strip in it, so they can make their own comb the way they want to do it. Yeah, I'm liking the whole natural way of keeping them. I had even talked to some people that said that they no longer treat their bees because they found that their treated bees were weaker in regards to varroa mites. The stronger bees, the bees that learned how to take care of the problem of varroa, and queens were breeding stock that was, we'll say not varroa resistant, but varroa strong. They could take care of it. So I haven't gone treatment free yet, and I don't know that I will. But it's interesting to see. Bees know what they're doing. I mean, they've been doing it for thousands of years. So, and I did see a guy. It was a short clip, one of those little 30-second clips, and a guy said that the biggest problem the biggest detrimental problem to bees is the beekeeper. And then he went on to explain why. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. He said, leave them alone, and they know what to do. Don says, currently we have one rooster for every 5 hens, but all the hens have bald backs. We have 18 birds in each of our 2x6 cages. Is there anything we can do to help the hens? It could be two things. It could be that your hens are being overbred, which is causing them to lose their back feathers, or it could be a nutrition issue to where they are plucking and eating feathers. I've seen that before. So you may want to look into your feed. As a matter of fact, Don, here on the channel, there are 2 live streams with a nutritionist, Rebecca Lynch and Jeff Maddox. And he addresses that problem specifically in one of the live streams. I can't remember which one it is. But check those out. Watch them. I mean, they're long live streams, but there's so much good information. But I mean, I had a lot of hens that when I was setting them up in a 1 to 3 breeding group, the hens, not so much the backs, but the back of their head and neck were bald. And that's just because the roosters were, being a little bit more aggressive when he was breeding and inadvertently pulling some feathers out of the back of the head. But yeah, if the whole back is bare, definitely look into nutrition, because they may be pulling feathers and eating feathers. And he says, so what if I was to put a bowl of sugar water a few feet away? Would that help them, keep them over there and over their way and not mine? Yeah, definitely. The only thing is when you put that bowl of sugar water out, a few foragers are going to find it. They're going to go back to the hive, and they're going to do this little dance that's going to tell other ones to come there. So you may be bringing in more of an issue, more bees by doing that. Unless you want to put it like maybe on the other side of your yard, then yeah, you can have that whole area over there for bees, and they'll most likely stay away from you. But I was going to say try the peppermint spray. I'm reading Miranda says, I'm going to try the peppermint spray. I've never heard of that. Lemongrass is what we use to bait the newt boxes. Yeah, I did. I put a couple drops of lemongrass on a paper towel and set it inside the swarm box, but didn't do any good. I never caught anything. But yeah, I've heard of the lemongrass trick. And the peppermint, I can't remember where I heard that. I think it was from Fat Bee Man. Peppermint or spearmint. Both of those will repel. And believe it or not, lemongrass will repel if it's too strong. If you use a really strong mixture of lemongrass, you can actually repel them. I have a neighbor that next door to him, he leaves his front porch and back porch light on all night long. And he was having an issue with, and he didn't mind. He told me, we were talking about it, he didn't mind. He said, I got to be careful when I come out my door in the morning because there's all these bees buzzing around my light. And bees are just like any other insect, attracted to lights. So I told him, I said, what you might want to do is before you leave in the morning, shut the light off, 30 minutes before you're getting ready to leave, or 20 minutes, whatever, and see if that doesn't help. And sure enough, that helped. But I gave him a spray bottle of peppermint, and he sprayed both the lights. And he said that it helped until the smell of the peppermint wore off, and then they were right back at it. So Sundial Fragrance is in the house. Says good morning, Terry. Good morning. Andy Rabbit says, I have a koi pond and a big IBC tote we toss our soda cans in, and a whole lot of flowers planted in my yard. Yeah, you got a natural attractant for bees. So, yeah, you can try it. Like I say, I think that's a pretty good idea. Maybe, put some sugar water on the far side of your yard, and maybe you can, draw them all over there. Miranda says, don't add sugar water. The scouts will find it, go back to the hive, and direct more bees where to find the cache of resources. Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. But, I mean, when I do, and this is probably stupid, when we extract honey, I take the empty frames, I'll put them in a 10-frame box, and I'll take them out in the back corner of the yard farthest away from the bees, and I'll set them on a 55-gallon drum, and they come out and they do the same thing. You know, they go back and they tell everybody there, and pretty soon I've got a swarm of bees cleaning up those frames for me. I just found out that was kind of stupid to do, because they say that it can cause a robbing effect around the hives. But I've never had any issues with robbing. I know some people in my neighborhood from the bee club. They're saying that this time of year they're having all kinds of crazy issues with robbing and, you know, bees being aggressive and whatnot. I haven't. They're loaded up with honey. I did one harvest. I think a couple gallons of honey from 3 hives, and then I left the rest of the frames for them. I need to do an inspection, because I think I may have to take some more honey from them just so they don't get honey bound. But yeah. Talking to somebody else. Tucker Mountain Quail says, in the Jeff Maddox Live, he mentioned a feed that he thought was good in the beginning of the video, but the sound was off. Do you remember what that was? The video was a bit distorted. I believe he was talking about Kalmbach feeds, because a few people asked him about Kalmbach and what he thought about it, and he said probably because of Rebecca, you know, he had already looked at the feed analysis tag and, you know, deduced that it was a decent feed. So yeah, and that's what I was feeding my birds too, was Kalmbach. You know, it's a good feed. Otis says, oh, breaking news is tomorrow on my birthday. Yep, going to be interesting, and happy birthday, by the way. Sundial Fragrances, morning, y'all. Bernadine says, got stung on my thigh by a yellow jacket this summer, ended up at the docks needing antibiotics, had a horrible allergic reaction, scared of getting stung by anything now. You know, I was kind of overthinking that too when I first got into bees. I'm like, I haven't been stung, you know, since I was a little kid. And I'm wondering if, you know, maybe I'm not as tolerant of the bee venom anymore. But when my wife got stung the other day, not the other day, about last month sometime, she didn't even swallow. I mean, you could, to me, it looked like a mosquito bite. If that, she hardly had any, you know, white around it, no swelling whatsoever, just a little red dot. And I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, I get stung every now and then by, what do they call them? Sweat bees. They bite me. But yeah, I was worried about the whole being allergic thing. Mary says, we use cutter bees. They are totally non-aggressive. Hubby's very allergic. They will really help with my garden. There you go. Propolis, absolutely. Emma says, we call that purple grass flower bee balm here in the UK. The bees sure do love it. Yep, they do. And he said, my veggies do great during the summer now that I see bees around. Yeah, they... it's nice to have them around. I mean, for the gardens, I'm seeing a lot more. Like my neighbor's got this big tree. I don't know what kind of tree it is. He said it's from Africa, and it's blooming right now. It's been blooming for better than a month. And underneath the tree is a million of these little seed pods. And he told me that he has never seen that many seed pods dropping from this tree in all the years that he's lived there. And he's been there, you know, like 15 years. And he's attributing it to me having the bees, because you go over, stand in his yard, and just watch all the bees all over the flowers. So funny how this turned into from a quail channel into a bee discussion. Mary says they're also called mason bees. Those I've heard of. Mary, are they the ones that make holes in wood? I think those are carpenter bees that make the holes in the wood. I see them around every now and then too. Tucker Mountain Quail says, my elevation at Andover, New Hampshire. Barometric pressure, blah, blah, blah. Elevation, 198 meters. 650 feet barometric pressure. Let's see. Okay. Bob, I don't know if that will help you at all. I think Jeff said he liked Kalmbach feeds, that's what I use for the birds to do well. Yep. Look at me. Did anyone try quail stuffed turkey? There's an idea. No, I haven't tried it. Never even heard of it, actually. Sundown Fragrances said we will try. Not talking to me, not talking to me. Nabiki's in the house. Says, I'm late. At least I'm catching the end. Yeah, oh, it is almost 10 o'clock. I got to get out in the shop and do some CNC work today. And he said, I had just the one chicken. She'd poop everywhere and would never eat the feed. The quail dropped out. She just wanted cat food. The cat would run whenever she wanted to eat. That's pretty cool. Talking to me. Don says, Terry, we are using Kalmbach meat bird crumble. I've never tried that, and I haven't looked at the analysis tag on that one. I would start out with the Kalmbach game bird for your young birds, and then switch over to the Kalmbach layer. I use the 16 and 17% layer. Didn't really notice a difference with it, so I stuck with the 16. I'd be interested to see what's in the meat bird. Now, Jeff Maddox says that quail should be transitioned from starter to layer by using a grower feed in the middle. He said you're just wasting time and money feeding your bird starter for the entire 8 weeks. He said, you want to start out with starter? I believe this is what he said. I'm not sure on the exact time frame. Start out with starter for like the first 4 weeks. Switch over to a grower for the remaining time from the time they're 4 weeks up until the time they start laying. And then switch to your layer feed. Watch that video, or if somebody knows it right off the top of their head, let me know. On the time frame as far as what he said. I thought he said 4 weeks. I may be wrong on that. Nabiki talking about said, I moved from sea level to over 4,000 foot. I have had to change my incubation a little bit. I have increased the humidity about 5% and the temp a degree. I'm still not getting great hatches. That's the second person I heard that's having issues at a higher altitude. First couple were awful. Still learning the high altitude adjustments. Yeah, if you figure it out, Nabiki, let us know, because I get that question quite a bit. There's people even not even at as high of an altitude as Bob is. So, yeah, it would be nice to know what's causing them to have issues. Child of God says, question, put a lid with crushed eggshell in the aviary. Birds literally swarmed it, ate it all. Since calcium will leach into water of boiled eggs, can I give the birds the egg water separately? Of course. I don't see why not. I mean, I don't think it would hurt them. Are you having a calcium issue with your birds as far as like soft eggshells or anything? I would just keep throwing the crushed eggshell out there. I mean, yeah, you can give them the water. I don't think it's going to hurt. But I don't know. Good question. And he says, yes, Terry, sugar water away from us, closer to the fence where they come from. Hopefully they will stay over that way and not under my carport. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that will do it for you. I just didn't know if you wanted to attract even more bees because, like I say, when I put those the empty honey frames out there for them to clean up, it's a swarm. Once a few bees find it and they get back to the hive and tell everybody, whew, it's a traffic jam of bees over there. Red Bee says we are high elevation, just raised for our family. Do you have any issues with incubating? And he says, question, Terry, what is beehive robbing? Beehive robbing is basically where bees from one hive, whether it's your hives or a wild hive, will come in. They will try to overtake the hive itself, which is why a lot of people will put a reduced entrance reducer, they call it. It just makes the opening a little bit smaller, so the guard bees can efficiently guard the entrance. Because if they can't, if you got a big wide opening, they can get in there. They will actually take over the hive, kill the queen, steal all the honey and all the resources, and then be back to their hive. I run a reducer on mine year round. I mean, wild hives, some of them have little bitty holes the size of a quarter for their entire hive. So, but yeah, robbing is an issue. Nabiki says, I set 24 eggs 16 days ago. 11 are still alive. Wow. That's less than half. It's not good. Miranda says, you can stop robbing if it starts by turning on your sprinklers on high. They think it's raining and rush off home. Also make sure the entrance reducers on any weaker hives so they can defend themselves. Yeah, like I say, I run the entrance reducers year round on all my hives, regardless of size. I also heard, and you may have heard of this too, I've heard of people putting a wet sheet over top of the hive. Now, I don't know what the wet part of the sheet does. Maybe it blocks the smell, from coming from the hive, and I don't know. It's weird. But I've never heard about that on sprinklers. I'll have to give that a shot one time, if I ever have a problem. Nabiki says, bee venom and wasp venom are different. I'm allergic to bee venom, but not wasp venom. Yeah, I heard one thing, and I don't think it's true. I don't even remember where I heard it or read it. Somebody said that if you take honey, if you get stung, even if you're allergic and you get stung and you take honey from the hive, not honey that you buy at the store. The honey you buy at the store is garbage. Yeah, this stuff is so watered down and, it's garbage. And put it on the sting that it will reduce the amount of allergic reactivity. I also heard that if you take honey from the hive, from a hive, not in a particular hive, and eat it, if you are allergic to any type of bee venom or bee issues, that the honey will trigger that, but on a really small scale, really lower scale. Whether it's true or not, I don't know, but yeah, funny. Like I say, until I get stung and see what happens, I'm not going to worry about it. You're not talking to me. Tucker Mount Quail says this bee talk keeps. You'll need another live stream. My wife has been trying to get me to do a bee live. I don't want to. I got enough going on with Coturnix Corner, keeping me busy. And there's so many bee live streams out there, and I'm a rookie. I don't know a tenth about bees what some of these other channels do. So, yeah. Okay. Double R Farms says Kalmbach is the closest to what nutritionists recommend for birds I have found. There are some mills that work directly with Fertrell to get it right. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about Kalmbach. I'm trying to think who first turned me on to them. I know I was talking with Anita Garrett. She had her own feed mixed up. I can't remember who it was. Somebody had recommended Kalmbach, and I started looking into it. Oh, I know what it was. They recommended Kalmbach. I believe it was Rebecca Lynch, and I couldn't get it locally around here. And they said, well, you can get it on Chewy. And I went to Chewy and looked at the cost of feed was unbelievable to get it delivered. So I kept going to our local feed store, and I said, hey, can you get Kalmbach? And he said, yeah, possibly, let me look into it. Well, it took him like 3 months, and I guess he had been looking into it, but 3 months later, I walked in there one day to get my regular feed, and I saw a pallet of Kalmbach. I said, no way. So we tried it out, and it worked great. Double R Farm says the meat bird, start to finish, has great nutrition in it for the first couple of weeks, but after 4 weeks, go to a grower till they start laying, and then switch to a layer feed. Okay. Like I say, I don't know. I had no idea what's in the meat bird. So cool. Phil says 3 week starter, 3 weeks grower, then layer when you see eggs. Okay, cool. That's what Jeff was recommending. Good. And I know, and this was right before I got rid of all my quail. I know I was looking into that because, if I could save a few bucks on buying a cheaper feed than the, starter's most expensive because it's got the highest protein. If I could go on a grower and save a few bucks, that's the way why I was looking into it. But things happened and we ended up having to clear out the quail room. Nabiki says, I plan to write an article on backyard chickens when I figure it out. Cool. Maybe do a video too. That would be wonderful. Sundial Fragrance says, I was wondering if I ever have to fly and get some quail eggs in my handbag, will the flight affect the fertility of the eggs? No. I mean, a lot of eggs are flown to you. I was getting eggs from Michael Rose out in Arizona, and he took them. I guess he's got a drop-off right by the airport, and they were flown to me. I was getting them the next day, but they were flown in. So, yeah. No, I never had a problem with it. Let's see. Talking to somebody else. Emma says, question, what's the latest age you will leave a quail for eating? Okay, I mean, I know you can eat an any age bird. I don't know if I'd go past a year, and I've heard that there's no toughness. Like a 8-week-old and a 10-week-old and a year-old bird are going to be the same as far as toughness is concerned. But with that said, we only eat birds that are between 8 and, say, 12 weeks, because anything that's after that, we usually, boil them up, grind them up, and give them to the dogs. It's not, I guess, that they're any less tender, but I have noticed, and because I've eaten a few birds that were older, I noticed a different taste to the meat. It was almost like, I can't even describe it. I couldn't describe it to my wife when we were eating it. But I don't know, the younger birds, to me, tasted better. But yeah, I mean, as far as everything that I've read and heard, people say that, a year-old bird is just as tender as an 8-week-old. So take it for what it's worth. Sundial Fragrance says, I'm using a local feed. It is starter grower, 28% works good. Yep, that would work. Double R Farm says, don't fly from overseas. That will get you in trouble with TSA. Yeah, I know a few people that have paid fines for that. Not so much TSA, but as far as, what do they call it? Where they, oh, Lord. They almost got me, too. They didn't get me, but I had a guy ship some eggs from Germany, and he shipped them in an unmarked box. Well, they never made it through customs. That's the word I was looking for. Customs confiscated the eggs, and I never heard anything out of them. So, but I do know someone who ended up paying a pretty hefty fine because they were getting eggs shipped in from overseas without permits. Sundial Fragrance says, thanks, Terry. Yep. And he says, I ate a few that were 3 years before. Did you notice anything different in them, being older versus eating a bird that was, say, 8 to 12 weeks? The Beaky says, Customs frowns on live imports. Yep. I actually had a request. Well, I won't say it was a request. It was a hint. I had a shipment going to Australia. And they really wanted the pansy gene over there, something terrible. So, yeah, thanks. No, I didn't do it. I wouldn't even attempt it. Because the fine, as a matter of fact, we looked it up. The fine on their end would have been north of $5,000 had they got caught. Fine on my end, yeah, I still got fined, but their fine would have been huge. So, wasn't even going to chance that one. In the U.S., of course, Phil says, Jeff also told me mix olive or coconut oil in because birds need that 7% fat. I believe I remember him saying that on the live stream. Something I would have never thought of. And one thing that Jeff doesn't like, and this is something that I've done for years with my chickens and early on in my quail career, was fermented feed. I used to ferment feed all the time. One, because I love the smell of fermenting feed when I walked out in the shop, but my chickens loved it. I noticed when the chickens were eating it, it seemed like their feathers had this really iridescent appearance to them. And was it the fermented feed? I don't know. Was it, because they were free ranging? I don't know. But yeah, so anyhow, but Jeff he's not a big fan of fermenting. He said if you do ferment, make sure that it's fed right away. Do not let it go, too long, because then it's introducing bad stuff, I guess. Double R Farm says there's a whole process where you have to get them to hatch them and keep them for a few weeks. It's not cheap. Okay. Do you plan on shipping hatching eggs as far as chickens go, or I've only bought chicken hatching eggs once, and I bought them not local, but in the state of Florida. They were not Polish. The other fuzzy-headed ones. Boy, man, my mind is kind of gone today. But I had terrible hatch rates. I think I got like half a dozen or a dozen eggs, and like maybe 2 of them hatched. It was terrible. Silkies. It was my silkies. So I ended up buying live silkies from a hatchery, and those actually, they all made it here in good shape. Andy Rabbit says, it moved on me. I could not tell which one was what after we cooked them. There you go. Rusty says, had a great hatch rate last month on eggs from Sandy Soil Farm in Carolina. Has anyone else used them? I've heard of them. I've never used them. And he said that's why you put your enemy's name on the box so you don't get caught. My plan was because when you ship overseas, you got this big, long form that you got to fill out, even for the post office. And my plan was to do just that, was to put a fake address and a fake name. And I'm like, nope, they're going to ID me and all kinds of stuff when I got to the post office. So I went the legal route and did it. They did not check anything. I filled it all out. They asked me a couple questions about what was inside, even though it was written down on the form, and didn't check a thing. But I was a chicken. I didn't want to take the chance. Emma says, how do you ferment feed or food? Basically, you take the feed and you put it in I was using 5-gallon buckets and fill it up with water to where the water is about an inch or so over top of the feed, and then cover it. I used a towel. You want to cover it. You want it to be able to breathe, but you don't want any bugs or anything getting into it. Cover it and let it sit in a place that's not too hot, but also not too cold. maybe 75, 80 degrees, and wait for 3 days. And three to 3 to 5 days. This is what I used to do with my chickens. And you'll actually start to smell it after a while. Matter of fact, I did a video on the channel on fermenting feed for quail. So you can watch that. And that was fermenting crumbles. And I used to ferment crumbles also for the chickens. But I love that smell. When it starts fermenting, it almost smells like a sourdough bread. And quail are a lot, I won't say reluctant to eat it, but they've got to, once you introduce it to them, I introduced it to them young, say around, I don't know, 3 weeks old. And once they got used to it, boy, they'd go nuts every time I put it in there. Chickens, they always, every time I fermented feed for chickens, they would eat it like crazy. Phil says, I'm using Jeff's P&B and fish meal. Happy birds lay lots of eggs. I don't know what P&B is. Comment on there what P&B is. Probably something stupid that I'm totally overlooking. Nabiki says, I've been toying with the idea of getting some Samani, I don't know how you say the first word, I am Samani eggs to try to hatch, but I'm afraid to spend a lot of money and then not have any hatch. That's exactly what I was thinking when I first bought silky eggs that were shipped. They came from maybe 200 miles north of me in Florida. And, you know, I messaged the lady. She said, oh, we always get great hatch rates, this and that. And I said, do you have any, insurance on them? Like, the eggs come here broken or damaged? No, we don't do that, blah, blah, blah. And they were expensive. I mean, I can't remember exactly what I spent, but I want to save maybe $5 an egg. And I'm like, wow. And to only get 2 of them to hatch, that was kind of depressing. Phil says, fermentation takes 8 days or so. Otherwise, it's just wet feed, which is okay. I think that depends on temperature, because I know I can ferment feed 3 days down here. Obviously, it's a little bit warmer here in Florida. I go to the point of where I'm smelling that smell that I'm talking about, and also you'll see a lot of bubbling going on in there, bubbles coming up through the feed. So anywhere between 3 and 5 days is what I've been fermenting. Child of God said, bought my first live birds from Sandy Soil Farm. Great, healthy, and still with me, minus the one Cookie got. Speaking of Cookie, where's my Cookie? Oh, you're behind me. Okay, good. Andy says, I was joking about the name. Yeah, I was too. Debiki says, oh, it just started snowing. First snow of the winter here. Wow. Yeah, my sister sent me some pictures. It was like, this was recently, like 2 or 3 days ago, 70 degrees in Michigan. And usually this time of year, the ground is covered with snow. But beautiful sunny day. She was actually out mowing her lawn. And it was funny because it couldn't have been, I think it was last month sometime, right around Halloween, I want to say. She sent me a picture, and the whole ground and her deck and all her equipment out there, or stuff out there, was covered in snow. So, okay, Phil, poultry nutrition balancer. Good to know. Thank you. Wow. Samani eggs are $10 to $15 an egg. That's more than I want to invest in a bird. Emma says, oh, I lost it. I've heard of 15 grams of feed per day per quail. Would this be the same quantity for fermented feed? I can't answer that because I always free feed. I've always got feed in front of my birds. But what I would do with the fermented was I would put it in one of those plastic chick feeders. It's got, all the different, I think you can buy multiple sizes of them. But I would put them in that, and then, 5, 6, 8 hours later, whatever, towards the end of the day, I would pull it out, whatever was uneaten. I would just pull out and take out of the, dump it. But for the most part, they would clean up almost all of it. But other than that, I free feed everything. I let them have what they want, and then the fermented would get thrown out at the end of the day. Dry feed, obviously not. Double R Farm says some breeders have high hen to roux ratios. It gives them a bad hatch rate. I have no more than 5 hens in a single breeding pen and have great results. I ship chicken eggs in foam shippers. That's good to know because I may hit you up. I don't know though. I kind of like getting the live chicks, but I'm waiting to see. I'm going to wait a few more weeks and see what I've got out of this batch because I want to have all said and done. I want probably 4 or 5 hens and 1 good rooster. So we'll see what we got now, and then I'll get back to you. Yeah, that's a good point, Nabiki. You'd feed more weight, the moisture will add weight to the same volume. Exactly. Bob says we had our first snow last week, ½ inch, and disappeared by noon. Yeah. Sundial says I bought Breeze eggs, and the eggs got here okay. However, only one has some development. All the rest had issues. I still have 5 days to go for 1 egg. Will not do that again. I'm wondering because I noticed on the eggs that I got, the air sac had broken loose. Probably more than half of them were broke loose, and I don't know if they reattached like quail eggs do. Quail eggs, if you let them sit for 24 hours on a shelf, pointy end down, that air cell will rise up. A lot of times it'll reattach. I've also had, this is in quail now, I've also had detached air cells that were kind of split, and I didn't notice it until I went to candle it, and you could see like a bubble on each side of the fat end of the egg. It was really weird. And they had successfully hatched. So I don't know if that's what's causing the chicken eggs, being bigger, and the yolk weighing more, if it's, bouncing around harder and, it's more violent inside the egg, which is what's detaching the air cell and causing them not to hatch out. I don't know. But yeah, after that bad experience I had with the silky eggs, I was kind of leery about buying chicken eggs anymore. John says, how is your quail/shed barn going? I'm not building a shed or a quail or a barn. I am using my aviary out back. That is going to be probably a big grow out pen for me. I got to see who this is. Somebody keeps blowing up my phone. And of course, it's my sister. Oh, okay, cool. That was from you, Carrie. Thank you. What was I saying? Oh, aviary is going to be probably a big grow out pen, and I'm going to build 2 cages, probably very similar to slightly rednecks cages, just so I could have some birds outside to grow up and collect eggs from. I got so many thoughts going through my mind on this as far as how do I want to set it up. Do I want egg rollouts with covers? Do I want it just plain and simple like Chris's and open the cage every day and collect eggs? I haven't really figured out the perfect setup yet, but we will be working on it. Sundial Fragrances, seller offered to send another order. Guys, I got to go in 5 minutes. I should have been working a half hour ago. That's nice when they do that. I like that they'll, maybe once, get problems with customers that keep wanting to come back and say, oh, a bad hatch, give me some more eggs. Luis says, what are some of the benefits of fermented feed for quail? Out of curiosity for me. I'm not a nutritionist. I don't know anything about this stuff, but I've always read and been told, this is back in my chicken days, that fermented feed offers, like probiotics, which is good for healthy gut bacteria, and it helps the birds, process food better, So they're basically overall more healthy. Um, Jeff, I don't think seemed to think that fermented feed added that much more nutritional value to the feed. So, I would listen to Jeff way before I would listen to me when it comes to nutritional advice, because he knows he's in that business. Nabiki said, I tried 2 batches of call ducks in the spring. Not one hatch they developed, then never made it out. I've heard a lot of things about hatching out ducks that they were really, people are telling me that they're difficult to hatch, or they're harder to hatch than, like, say, chickens. I've never tried to hatch a duck, but I had ducks before who hatched out their own eggs just fine. So maybe they know something we don't. Tucker Mountain Quail says, I noticed some ship live quail. How does that even work? It's basically the same as shipping live chickens. You got to have a good live chick shipping box. But I think when it comes to quail, they wait till they're a little bit older, so they're not as fragile as they are when they're chicks. And then also you've got to be able to put some type of food supplement in there for them to eat, which is also like cucumber or something. It's going to give them moisture, for hydration. It's going to be a trick. Check our moderator, talk to him. Double R Farms. He is getting into shipping live birds, so he's, I'm sure, done all the homework on what it's entailed to. I can say that I've ordered over the years, the past 20 years, I've ordered live chicks through the mail, chicken chicks, and for the most part, I think I've had one dead chick shipped to me. Just out of, and usually when I order, I'll order anywhere from a dozen to 2 dozen at a time, and it seems like they always make it just fine. So I guess they've done their homework and got it set up. Sundial Fragrance says, I had this issue, the detached air sac. Yep, that seems to be pretty common amongst shipped eggs. Ray says, with chicken eggs, you tilt them every 2 hours while in the egg carton, pointy end down after getting them shipped. Helps them settle. Okay, there you go. Double R Farm says, you have to let chicken eggs rest 48 hours just like you do quail eggs. They will reattach the air sac. I put them in the incubator, point down 48 hours, no rotation. I've actually done that with quail, but that's good to know, 48 hours on the chicken eggs. I've done that with quail. I'll get them in, unbox them, go straight in the incubator, and keep the turner unplugged for 24 hours or so. And always worked great for me. Sundial Fragrance says, I got eggs from a hatchery. They shipped in foam, and I got 5 chicks out of 12. I'm thinking it's the packaging. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, the foam shippers are usually pretty good about holding. I just happen to have one here. Holding, like, these are for quail eggs. And then, they pack them in the quail eggs, and then they also have these half-inch sheets that go below and above them and in between any other foamers. And for the most part, they do a pretty good job, but it seems that it's not how well they're packed. Well, yeah, packaging helps, but I think it's like, say they get dropped. And a lot of times at post office, they go up a conveyor belt, and off the end of that conveyor belt, a 10-foot drop into a box or into a bin of packages. So I think it's more the jarring effect. Even though the eggs are secure, it's that jarring effect from the impact that's messing them up. Let's see. Phil says, Jeff suggests whole milk once in a while introduce good gut bacteria. Okay, I think I remember him saying that. Hunter says, howdy, Terry. How many birds do you plan on having once you figure out your new setup? As far as quail go, 2 cages, maybe a dozen in each cage. All I want is enough birds to supply me with meat and eggs. And if I do get some extras, I've got plenty of people around here that'll take them, or I can sell them to. But I do plan on having the aviary as a grow-out pen, so I can incubate, maybe 100 eggs at a time and grow them out in the aviary and then butcher them up for me or anybody else in the family that wants them. So that's the game plan. I'm trying to get quail down to a manageable amount to where I don't have to, because I'm kind of taking a whole new avenue on what I'm going to be doing here. I love the quail. I probably will always have quail, but I'm not going to worry about keeping enough quail to be able to, ship eggs and stuff like that. So that was the plan for this year. I was actually planning on starting out 2024, with over 500 layers and be able to ship out hatching eggs, to you guys, but things have changed. And for those of you who are wondering, since I cleared out all the quail out of my shop, my room out there, and cleaned out the room, and we gutted it, pulled out all the insulation, all the drywall, re-insulated, all new drywall, I can go out. I don't know if you noticed, I am not coughing like I normally would be. I can go out there, work in the shop all day long, and not have any problems. I am a little more thoughtful on putting a mask on when I'm doing woodworking, like sanding or running the saws and whatnot. But yeah, I got to take care of my lungs. My wife's got COPD, and I don't want to go through that. So Sundial Fragrance says, I tried hatching duck eggs. I had one from a friend. They are difficult. Only one chick out of 12. Yep, that's what I've heard. Like I say, I don't know, but Child of God says mine were 4 weeks. Had a cut cucumber, all alive and perky. That is back in late spring. Yeah, I know there's not a lot of people that ship quail, but okay, 4 weeks old. Okay, that is good size for shipping. I do know of a couple people that will do. They're a little bit larger farms that will ship live. Like I say, Double R Farms is going to start shipping live here pretty soon, or shipping live quail pretty soon, so that'll be cool. Andy Reb says, I have a pair of quail that lives together. Nice. Sundial Fragrances, let them rest for 24 hours. Okay, guys, I'm dragging it out here. Mary says it's not as much as the packing is the treatment of the boxes. Absolutely. Sundial Fragrance says, but not the incubator and the egg carton. Sundial Fragrance says, have a nice weekend. Happy Thanksgiving. And Child of God says, need to run. Happy Thanksgiving to all. Okay, guys, I do got to pull the plugs. I got to get to work. Got some orders that need to be filled. I want to thank you for joining me today. It was a great live. Really enjoyed it. Guys, I can't say how much you need to watch tomorrow's live stream. It's going to be very informational, very informative, maybe very surprising to a few of you. So, guys, have a wonderful week. We'll see you on tomorrow's live. I hope you guys all have a great Thanksgiving. And remember what we have to be thankful for. So, guys, thanks for joining me, and we will see you tomorrow night.